Are you returning to your edgelord days?
Sure.
Are you wanting this to show up on Reddit again?
It's the IDP show, now you know.
Welcome to the IDP show. I'm your host, Josh Raymer, joined in the Sode Shack this afternoon, Bobby Reynolds. Today, on this episode, we are doing an updated rookie mock draft. Baba, we're less than a month out. It is April. We are in draft month here, kicking off in like 3 or 4 weeks. You know, the draft gets underway in Green Bay. So our boys, I think so we have some friends from the IDP show team who may be attending the draft this year. We're going to have to do some boots on the ground coverage. But with the draft now less than a month away, felt like a good time to do an updated rookie mock draft. So that's what we're going to be diving into today.
I'm ready for it. You know, this is the fun time for us, in my opinion. I think the IDP show really blossoms in the offseason. We've got some time to chew on the stats from 2024. We've got some time to prepare for the rookies that are going to be incoming. I don't know. April is a little bit boring in terms of sports. You're winding down from March Madness, and baseball's kicking in. So I love baseball. I'm a big baseball guy, but I really love getting into the rookies. Have enjoyed that for several years now.
Did you say this is when we blossom because you're looking out the window and you can see the trees beginning to blossom here in my yard?
I just stopped sneezing a couple days ago.
It is hellacious.
Preparing for that next sinus infection.
Allergy season. So, it is kind of a dull time in sports. I am leading in my March Madness bracket.
Wow, congrats.
The one pool that I jumped into, I just picked all the 1 seeds.
Smart.
So that ended up being a viable strategy this year.
Who's winning it for you?
I have Florida over Houston.
Oh, wow.
So we'll see.
As a little old Duke fan, I wouldn't say I'm still a Duke fan. I loved Christian Laettner and Carlos Boozer and Shane Battier back in the day.
J.J. Redick.
Old Redick. Chris Duhon. But, yeah, great teams left. Great teams left.
I think it'll be some fun basketball this weekend.
Yes,
are you a fan of the torpedo bats that the New York Yankees have invented?
You know, I've kind of been paying attention to that a little bit. I did see where my boy Ellie De La Cruz had 2 home runs, like 4 or 5 RBIs yesterday with a torpedo bat. So, hey, if it's working,
I'm for it.
Let's let it rip.
I've enjoyed all the tweets this week that are like, just do steroids like a real man.
It gives me the McGuire, Sosa, everybody, Rafael Palmeiro, Jose Canseco vibes of let's just hit 70 home runs a year.
Baseball's
How much
more
fun is that?
I've always said let them inject steroids straight into their forehead if they want to.
Sorry, pitchers.
Makes baseball more interesting.
Yeah.
Baseball has never been more fun in my lifetime than it was during that Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa home run.
Agreed.
Kind of struggle.
Was that the same year that Bonds ended up? That was a different year. Bonds broke the record a different year.
Yeah, he broke it a few years later.
He hit 70?
73, I think.
Okay.
Just an insane number of home runs.
Yeah.
So, but this is not a baseball podcast.
Nope.
This is a football podcast. And so we are going to talk, like I said, updated rookie mock draft, some ground rules. This is going to be a 3-round, 1 QB, PPR, big 3 scoring rookie mock draft. We are using true position, and if you're in a Superflex league, don't worry. We're going to have you covered on the IDP after show. Post-draft, they will be doing a big Superflex rookie mock draft. Once we know all the landing spots and draft capital for these rookies, the guys will be jumping on. That'll be a lot of fun. 6 guys on the episode doing a live rookie mock draft for Superflex leagues, so look forward to that. But today, 1 QB, 3 rounds, PPR, big 3 scoring. Bobo has taken the odds. I'm taking the evens. So, Bobo, why don't you kick us off there at 101 with, I feel like, probably one of the most consensus chalky 101 picks we've had in a while.
It is, but I could be swayed. I could be talked into who I think you'll probably take at 102 in IDP leagues. But, yeah, with the 101, you go Ashton Jeanty. I don't want to throw the generational term around too much. I know everybody gets a little hangry when that starts happening. But Jeanty just looks like a smasher at 101. I think it makes the most sense. He's going to get the highest draft capital. Feels like he's probably going to go to a team that's going to, insert him to RB1 role immediately and run the wheels off of him. So I don't think there's, even in IDP leagues, much conversation outside of Jeanty for the 101, but if you got the 101 this year, congratulations, because there's a lot of times where, the 101, you're like, I guess I'm going said player. Josh Jacobs' year was kind of weird. We've had some over the years where there's just not that locked and loaded player, but for this year, congrats. That's a smash at 101.
Yeah, so a great resource is NFL Mock Draft Database. They basically combine all of the mock drafts from the biggest sources, the biggest content creators out there, and kind of put them into one database so you can see as a consensus, as a community, where are guys being mocked right now. Jeanty is 6th overall. His projection is number 6 to the Raiders, kind of averaging out the landing spots that they see most frequently for these players. He is the number 1 guy over on the rookie rankings for Keep Trade Cut, and he is the number 1 ranked player for Adam in 1 QB leagues. So Ashton Jeanty goes off the board. 101, no surprise. No surprise, 102. We've been talking about it all off season. Adams had him as his number 1 ranked IDP since December. It is Travis Hunter. And Bobo, you're starting to see the script flip more and more that teams view Travis Hunter as a wide receiver primarily who can play those cornerback snaps. And so I think right now you see him as the 3rd wide receiver right now by Keep Trade Cut behind Tet McMillan and Emeka Egbuka, which was very surprising to me that Egbuka was that high. But I think Travis Hunter is going to rise up the ranks. And I don't know that he'll surpass McMillan in terms of the public, because I think those concerns over where he's going to play are going to keep him from ascending to that number 1 overall spot for rookie wide receivers. But just purely based on talent, if he is given the opportunity, like if we knew that ahead of time, the lane clears, Travis Hunter is very clearly the wide receiver 1 from this class.
Yeah, it came out a couple days ago, Matt Harmon's reception perception on Travis Hunter, all green. Christmas tree, 92nd percentile success rate versus man, which to me is huge. Really good versus zone. 97th percentile versus press. Harmon also said rare catching ability, frequently makes the first defender miss. So I love Travis Hunter. I agree with you, Josh. I do think that the narrative has flipped a little bit to where people are realizing, this guy is actually really talented on both sides of the ball. I get it. But offensively, you look at the other side of this too is from a player perspective. You've got an agent telling you, have you looked at Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb's contracts here lately? Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of well-paid cornerbacks in the league. Not like Jamar Chase.
They're not getting wide receiver money yet. So Travis Hunter should just be like, let me get wide receiver money and cornerback money on top of that and have the biggest contract in NFL history.
So here's the other thing, too, and I feel like there's a little bit of confusion, even in the IDP world, even in some people that listen to our podcast, as to why Keep Trade Cut, all these other sites have Travis Hunter so low, but why we're picking him here at the 102. It is under the perception that Travis Hunter is going to be, in my eyes, a majority wide receiver who also, to use your phrase, moonlights as a cornerback.
Right.
Not necessarily an every down cornerback, but potentially probably a third down cornerback on, premier passing plays, passing downs, and then some second downs. So you're not going to see 100, I don't think. But if you were to stack those two things together, you get this elite, in my opinion, Travis Hunter at wide receiver who also plays some cornerback snaps. That is why in IDP, Big 3 scoring, points per reception, this guy has the potential really to break some IDP leagues if the stars really align like we think they're going to.
Yeah, and there's 2 scenarios to lay out here, both of which I think we'll see. I think it will largely depend on the landing spot. The mock draft database has him as the going number 3 overall to the Giants. Now you're seeing a lot of smoke with Shedeur Sanders inside the top 3 to either the Browns or the Giants.
I liked what you said today.
Right.
Everybody saying, please, y'all.
Someone trade up.
Yeah.
If you like Shedeur Sanders, please come get this guy. We're not afraid.
Yeah.
We'll do it. We'll take Shedeur Sanders. That I don't believe that at all. This is smokescreen season. But the 2 scenarios I think that can play out here for Travis Hunter are both equally interesting, and I would be curious your take on which one you'd prefer. Option 1, he plays primarily cornerback and gets sprinkled in, let's say, heartily on the offensive side of the ball. And so you have that positional designation, because I think he is going to be labeled as a cornerback by the majority of platforms that don't do any sort of dual eligibility. And so I think he's going to be labeled as a CB. And if he plays primarily CB, good chance he keeps that designation down the road, and you're able to start a part-time wide receiver in your cornerback spot. So that's option one. Option two is that you got a guy who's playing full-time wide receiver snaps and getting sprinkled in at cornerback. So you're probably going to have him as a CB for 1 year, and then he'll flip to wide receiver in year two once we see what the splits look like. So you're burning that CB designation, but when he flips, you know you've got a full-time wide receiver. Those are kind of the two options I see playing out, and I was kind of weighing both options yesterday. Like, I don't know which one I'd really rather prefer, because I think that cheat code really only applies if you're getting a guy listed as a CB who is getting a healthy amount of wide receiver snaps.
Yeah, I agree. Also, take into consideration, I think the reason you're saying that he is going to be listed as a CB on these platforms is because he played more cornerback snaps last year at Colorado than he did offensive snaps. So
it was close.
It was really close.
But he edged out the wide receiver snaps with his cornerback play.
You can sit and kind of mull that decision and think about which one would be best for the long term. But to be honest with you, I think we all would agree, Adam as well, that when it hits the fan, because he's going to go to a bad team, he's going to the, hopefully not the Giants, he's going to the Patriots.
I would love the Patriots landing spot.
Going to the Browns. The Patriots would be the best, where it's like, it's a bad team, but real quickly you could be like, this team's
also
not that bad.
Drake May, inside the top where he could possibly go, which I think is 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah.
Drake May is by far the best quarterback.
I think from a selfish perspective, the first 4 picks for fantasy would be, go ahead, Titans, and take Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Number 2, Browns, y'all take Abdul Carter. That'd be really fun with him and Myles Garrett. I don't know that it makes sense for that team, but go for it. 3, get you Shedeur.
I think Shedeur's in there. Whether it's someone like the Raiders trading up,
Yeah.
that would make a lot of sense to me. I do love them as the Jeanty landing spot, but I could see them trading up to have Shedeur sit behind Geno Smith for 2 or 3 years.
Shedeur's not a plug-and-play right now. But then number 4,
Travis Hunter.
Hunter to the Patriots.
I love it.
You said it last episode, and I didn't really even process it until this last week. I was like, wow, Hunter and Christian Gonzalez might be the 2 of the best cornerbacks in the league.
I think that quickly becomes the best cornerback duo in the NFL.
And youngest.
Right.
You know, healthy too. I can't wait to see what a healthy Christian Gonzalez looks like. But, you know, I know we won't spend that much time on all these picks, but, you know, my last question would be, there's no way that if you have the 101, you're thinking Hunter in IDP.
I think Adam said it best. That's just getting a little too cute.
Yeah.
I think you're looking at someone in Ashton Jeanty who is going to be a top 5 dynasty running back, maybe even top 3 behind like a Gibbs and a Bijan.
Yeah.
You know, you could have Saquon in that mix, maybe a little lower just depending on the age, but those are so rare that I want to take the sure thing. And I think there are enough questions about the usage for Travis Hunter, whereas there are no questions with Ashton Jeanty. He's going to be plug and play, especially somewhere like the Bears, like the Raiders. You're going to be looking at not just a top 3 or 4 dynasty running back, but a top 3 or 4 redraft running back for 2025. So I think it's just a little too cute if you have the strongest convictions that Travis Hunter is going to play wide receiver and he is a generational type talent like a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase. Like if you see this, if you look at this guy and see that, I think we would all take Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase over a Bijan, over a Gibbs. So if you look at this guy and see that, I could understand going Hunter at 101, especially in IDP leagues. But I'll just take the sure thing in Jeanty.
And don't you feel like when it hits the fan for said team, whatever he goes to, offense is going to be
offense wins the day.
What he skews to.
They will put him out there
Agreed.
as a wide receiver because he is an elite wide receiver. So agree with you. So Jeanty goes 101. Hunter goes 102. Where are you going here, 103?
I'm going to go Tet.
Okay.
I'm going to go probably against a little bit of ADP right now. And who I think you'll probably end up taking at 4 here. I've seen a little strife here with Omarion Hampton here as of late. I'll try to find it here in just a second, but I love Tet. There's just that size, that frame, the hands, I also don't love the downfield 50-50 stuff being like a trait, like, because it doesn't really translate to the NFL as well, because the cornerbacks are quite a bit better. But I think that a little bit of my negativity towards Tet this offseason being, well, he has a little bit of trouble separating, and press coverage, he struggles a little bit. I think you can refine that. I think that can shape up a little bit in the NFL, and it's just hard to find that frame, that body type, that athletic profile in a lot of people in the NFL. So as much as I could understand maybe going running back there, I think Tet is going to win the day down the road.
I think Tet's one of these guys we're going to look back on and understand in retrospect that we were overthinking things.
Oh, for sure.
I think Tet is one of these kind of rare X receivers that don't come along quite often, because we've seen this sort of diversification of body types of wide receivers, and you just don't get this archetype that much. And yeah, you can pick holes in his game, but I think he's a guy that's going to go probably top 12 in the NFL draft. The mock draft database has him at 9th overall, projected 12th to the Dallas Cowboys.
That's really high.
I mean,
that's really high.
That is just, he is a rare, I don't necessarily, even though we do see it more often in the NFL that they like weird wide receivers as the first wide receiver off the board.
Yeah.
Because it only takes one team, right, to set the trend for the entire first round of the draft. I'm not really buying the Matthew Golden wide receiver one. I think Tet is going to be, if you don't count Travis Hunter, I think Tet McMillan is going to be the first wide receiver off the board. So that'd be my pick at 103 as well. And even though I have some consideration for the guy who here is fifth on Adam's 1QB rookie rankings, which is TreVeyon Henderson. If you haven't checked out the Underdog Fantasy program with Josh and Hayden, they do basically 8 to 15-minute videos for all of the notable prospects. I've really been enjoying diving into those, and they've got me a little more interested in TreVeyon Henderson. I think there's some first-round buzz building for TreVeyon Henderson, but ultimately I think Omarion Hampton is going to be the second running back off the board. The mock draft database has him at 26 overall, projected most frequently 20th to the Denver Broncos, which I think would be a fantastic landing spot. By Keep Trade Cut, he is the second overall player behind Jeanty. So yes, I will go with Omarion Hampton at the 104. I'm sitting here, this is agonizing a little bit for me because I have 105 in our main league. I need running back, and it feels like, to me, Bobo, this is sort of that cliff. This in IDP leagues is where you see sort of the cutoff between like that elite tier of rookie prospects, and then after that you have a second tier.
Yeah.
But at least for me, it feels like Jeanty, Hunter, Hampton, and McMillan are that top four in a tier all by themselves.
I agree with you. I do love Omarion. There was a little bit of shade I saw this week. Marcus Mosier, a guy that I follow on the X, talking about what a GM told him. I believe some NFL teams might not be as high on a guy like Omarion Hampton as maybe we in fantasy think, talking about him running high. He's pretty tight and stiff. The best running backs are guys with low centers of gravity, lateral agility, contact balance. This guy's just big and straight line fast, maybe in the right scheme, maybe an outside zone, 49ers, Sean McVay, that type of offense. So basically saying I'd be shocked if he went in the first or second round. So I don't know. I mean, is that just boring, April where we're just trying to grasp at straws potentially? But going back and watching the tape after even I had read that, Omarion Hampton's tape is just really good. So I agree with your selection there, Joshy. I think Omarion Hampton is the right pick. Okay, so 105, I'm going to flip the script a little bit, and I'm going to let you take your guy if you want to, because I love Quinshon Judkins.
Okay.
That Ohio State running back core there in 2024 was fun. You kind of had two kind of similar running backs. I mean, it wasn't like you really had one ground and pound and you had one pass catcher. I know TreVeyon's traits are a little bit more pass catching, but Quinshon can too. I think Judkins is just a little bit more of an athletic freak, even though Henderson in his own right is an athletic freak. If you like to get in the stats sheets, the spreadsheets, Henderson beats out Judkins in a lot of things, but I just think at the end of the day, the NFL is going to find a way to make Judkins work. And I don't know. I just Judkins is a guy that I'm willing to be wrong on just because I like him so much.
Yeah, it feels like he's kind of in that second group of running backs, along with TreVeyon Henderson. You also have the kid from Iowa there,
Caleb Johnson.
Yep. Kind of feels like those guys are all in the mix for RB3 after. It feels like Hampton and Jeanty are sort of 1 and 2 by consensus.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it's going to shake out. Now, I will say, if we do see a TreVeyon Henderson, say, go to the Broncos there with the 21st pick or whatever it is that the Broncos have, I think you could see TreVeyon Henderson flip with Omarion Hampton. I think that draft capital is going to be pretty important for this group. Yeah, the Broncos are there at 20. So if they, for example, like Henderson better for what that offense is missing, I think you could see a flip, especially if Hampton then goes, because I don't know necessarily that we're going to see 3 running backs go round 1 because it is sort of a deeper running back class. So I think a lot of teams are going to draft more premium positions with earlier picks. And so if Hampton does slide to the second round, this feels like one of those spots in the draft after the Jeanty, Hunter, McMillan top 3 where things could get a little interesting at 4, 5, 6.
So here at 6, you take a TreVeyon?
I'm going TreVeyon.
I think that the NFL is going to fall in love with TreVeyon. Interviews really well, metrics are great, statistics are great. I just think that he's gonna gel. He's gonna mesh with a team really, really well, and he's gonna be a really solid running back in the league for several years. So it's probably a little bit of a reach to go grab Judkins ahead of TreVeyon, but to me, I see them both very similar. Honestly, I think TreVeyon at 106 is kind of a little bargain, to be honest with you.
And this is one of those where the market, at least in terms of the mock draft, the people putting mock drafts out there, they view these guys very similar as well.
Yeah.
TreVeyon Henderson, 46th overall, and Judkins, 49th overall. Okay. And it's funny, they have the peaks in here as well, like what is the highest that these guys have been mock drafted, and both of them fall within like a 2 to 3 player band.
Yeah.
Because Henderson, his peak is 44 and his average is 46.
Okay.
So they view him as like a middle of the second round kind of guy.
Okay.
And then Judkins is a peak of 47, average of 49.
Okay.
So mock drafters see these guys very similar as like mid-second round picks.
I got you.
So let's move on to the next pick, though, Bobo.
Yeah, so
107, where are you going?
This is going to be a little spicy. I might get a little flack for this, but I'm going to go Abdul Carter at 107.
Oh, wow.
This is probably going to be a little high. It's going to be a little hot take-ish, but if the NFL values a defensive end enough to draft him at the 102 in IDP, we should really pay attention because as much fun as this draft is going to be and as many running backs as there are to throw these darts at, and as okay-ish as these wide receivers are, and some of them are going to pan out, man, there's going to be a lot of guys from this draft that are out of the league in a couple years. So as people are trying to figure out which running backs behind those big 4 are potentially even maybe jumping up to grab a tight end at this spot or grabbing the next of a Luther Burden, Matthew Golden, if Abdul Carter is as good as
if he's Micah Parsons 2.0,
107 makes sense to me.
I think so. Question though, Bobo, are you trying to return to your edgelord days? Are you wanting this to show up on the front page of Reddit again?
100%. You can't hurt me. I'm unhurtable.
Unhurtable. That's a word that we just made up, but I like it. Yeah, that's spicy. I wondered where Abdul Carter was going to go because there is a difference between like a Latu versus Dallas Turner, who we saw last year go like 15 to 18 range, and a guy like Abdul Carter who could potentially go at the 102.
Yeah.
You got to remember, that's like Aiden Hutchinson type of draft capital.
Exactly. Great
right?
point.
And so that there is a difference in my mind between how, even though this is quote unquote like a weaker draft class overall, at least in terms of I think how NFL decision makers are viewing these rookies, that's still a significant investment in a guy like Abdul Carter. So yeah, I'll be curious. I wish that we had a sort of database out there to see how the market is viewing IDPs filtered in, because I think he's a first round pick. I would just be curious where the market views him within the first round.
The market is just what everybody else thinks. I mean, they're going to think we're too high on Travis Hunter. The market's going to think I'm too high on Abdul Carter, and I get that. But the odds of an Abdul Carter still being in the NFL in 5 years versus a Luther Burden, Luther Burden's probably going to be pretty good. Matthew Golden's probably going to work out, but they might not.
Well, these are all dart throws,
Yeah.
and so it's just take the dart throw that we think has the longest shelf life.
102 draft capital, potentially.
Yeah, so that is indicative of a guy who is probably going to be around, like you said, 5 years from now. Yeah, Abdul Carter, number 2 overall, projected second to the Browns.
So there's a good metric, Josh. Will you trade the 107 for, let's just say, I know Aiden's injury, so let's just take the injury out. Let's just say you were getting Aiden Hutchinson you're trading the 107.
Yeah, I would absolutely
do that in a heartbeat, right?
Heartbeat, yep.
What about Will Anderson?
Yep.
See? It's kind of the same thoughts in my mind.
Yep.
I see those guys with Abdul Carter in the same line. Next year, Adams Dynasty ranks are going to have all those guys pretty close together.
So I'm going to... You mentioned a few guys there that are sort of on my mind.
I know where you're going.
You know where I'm going?
I know where you're going.
All right, where am I going?
You're going Tyler Warren.
I am going Tyler Warren at the 108, just because tight end is sort of a little bit of a wasteland right now in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Outside of like Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, depending on how you feel about Sam Laporta, you still have like the old heads, Kittle and Kelsey kind of
Mark Andrews
kicking around. Mark Andrews sounds like he's not going to be cut now. What happens with Kyle Pitts? You have kind of mid-tier guys like Njoku, but really outside of like the top 2 or 3 guys, depending on how you feel about Laporta, it's sort of yucky right now. And even though it sounds like some of the guys being mocked in the first round at tight end are by no means perfect prospects, I think first round draft capital for a tight end going right around where Brock Bowers went. Not saying either of these guys are going to be Brock Bowers, but in terms of dart throws, this is less about certainty around the player and more about like if I can nail a onesie position, which tight end typically is for most leagues, and have a guy that is going to reside near the top of tight end dynasty rankings, I'm going to take that shot here rather than going with sort of these mystery box wide receivers.
It's really smart, Josh. If Tyler Warren gets the draft capital like we all think he's going to, very similar to like an Abdul Carter, there's a select handful of just crazy elite defensive ends in the league right now, but a few select young ones. We just mentioned them. So, yeah, if Tyler Warren can insert himself into that Bowers, McBride type category, I even thought the other day, if you went back and redid the 2024 draft right now, how high would Bowers get? You probably want New York Giants wide receiver
Malik Neighbors
1. You want Harrison 2. Then you start to think like
I think
Bowers.
I think I would take Bowers over Harrison at this point.
Really?
I think I'd have Neighbors 1, and even in non-tight end premium, I just think you've got the dynasty tight end 1 for the next like 6-7 years.
That's crazy.
And I think Marvin Harrison Jr. will be fine.
It's gonna work out.
But it's like, what do we know at this point? We know Brock Bowers is a stud, and so I'd rather just take that guy over the upside case that you can make for Marvin Harrison. So yeah, Tyler Warren actually slots in right now as the dynasty tight end number 4.
Wow.
Behind Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Sam Laporta. There is Tyler Warren ahead of TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle, and another guy we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. Yes, so 108, Tyler Warren. Babo, where are you going 109?
I'm going with my boy, Emeka Egbuka.
Okay, talk to me about Egbuka. I was listening to Josh and Hayden break down Egbuka's sort of prospect profile.
Yeah.
And they talked about him as one of these guys that is not going to be your dynamic playmaking wide receiver 1. He's sort of that like last piece of the puzzle at wide receiver that some of these Super Bowl contending teams are going to go after.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly what I see in a guy like Emeka. He's a little bit to me like a TreVeyon Henderson, isn't going to be like the RB1 out of the class. I don't think that Emeka is going to be anywhere like Tet or potentially even Travis Hunter, but I think it's going to be very similar. You're just going to find some GMs and some coaches that fall in love with a guy like Emeka because he works in their system. He sits down in the zone. He has reliable hands. He's strong through contact. I just don't think there's much to overthink about Emeka. I think Luther Burden and Matthew Golden, there's all this first-round talk about those guys, but when I see what Emeka put on the field at Ohio State, that's hard for me to look away from.
Yeah, it seems like he is a lower ceiling but much higher floor type of prospect.
Agreed.
Coaches are going to love this guy. He's going to be in the right spot. He's a great blocker. And so these are the kind of things I think are going to get Egbuka on the field a lot earlier and keep him on the field more so than some of these other higher drafted wide receivers. And so, okay, you are going with Egbuka at the 109. So 110 here. I'm kind of torn between a few guys. I just went Tyler Warren, and we are not drafting specifically for the same team or anything, just 12 different drafters in each of these rounds drafting for their teams. So I'm kind of torn here, Bobo, between Burden, Golden, and Caleb Johnson.
Okay.
That's kind of where my mind's at.
Sure.
We should mention Consensus Big Board has Egbuka right outside the first round at 33 overall. So Luther Burden right behind him at 34, with the most common projection being 26 to your Rammies.
Wow.
Which would be kind of fascinating.
Yep.
And then, Caleb Johnson further on down the list as far as mock drafts go. So this is one of those areas where I think I'd rather stick at wide receiver because these are guys that are going to get draft capital. So then it's a case between, do you like a Matthew Golden? Do you like a Luther Burden? And I think I'll just go with the guy that, for whatever reason, is getting that wide receiver 1 overall buzz and go with Matthew Golden here at the 110, being projected most frequently at 22 to the Los Angeles Chargers, 20th overall in mock drafts database. He is the rookie ranking. Let's see where they have him at Keep Trade Cut. I'll have to go back and find him on Keep Trade Cut. Sure. But he strikes me as sort of the very clear cut, like in the argument for the wide receiver 3, if you're classifying Hunter as a wide receiver, behind Tet McMillan. I think he's in that mix with Luther Burden in terms of we feel pretty confident these guys are going to get first-round draft capital. So it's who do you like best? And I'll just kind of default in that coin flip to the guy that it seems like NFL decision-makers like better.
Yeah, so you're going Golden?
I'm going Matthew Golden.
Okay, yeah, I got to admit I don't love Golden. There's just something about it that I can't get behind. If he goes in the first round, it's going to be hard to look away from. But Golden is just he's not a guy that I maybe it's Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy that's kind of got me scared off of those Texas wide receivers from last year.
That's understandable.
You as a Adonai Mitchell, you had to watch him all last year. Just get wide open all the time and then absolutely do nothing.
You just wait till Daniel Jones leads us to the promised land of 9-8 and a wild card loss.
You're gonna wish you had just held on to A-Rich a little bit longer.
Yes, Matthew Golden, the 12th overall player for Keep Trade Cuts rookie rankings here, and for Adam, he is ranked as the 10th overall player, wide receiver 3 for him.
So, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't know. Golden's just not a guy that I love.
We are outside of the territory of guys that I feel really good about at this point, which is kind of interesting. Like, if you're noticing the cliffs in the first round, like I think that's why this exercise is helpful, is if you're sitting there with certain picks in your rookie draft, and you're like, I really need a contributor. I need a guy that I can feel good about putting into my lineup.
Yeah.
You can kind of sense as we go through these mock drafts here where those cliffs are. So you may want to trade up if you're looking to secure one of these guys. Because there could be dudes that rocket into the first round if they get surprising draft capital. But as it sits right now, that is one of the guys. Rather than going like a Caleb Johnson, who I think is going to be like much further down the list in terms of draft capital, I would just rather go with a guy we feel pretty good about in the first round. Yeah, Caleb Johnson, 65th overall in the mock draft database. So,
okay.
what is that, like right outside, beginning of the third round, which is fine draft capital for a running back.
It's okay.
But where are you going here, 111, Bobo?
111, I'm going to go with the boy who had 293 attempts last year, 1,700 yards, 21 touchdowns, 45 receptions, 605 receiving yards for 3 touchdowns. I'm going with the boy Cam Skattebo.
Okay.
Even though I know the 40 was a little slow, everybody was wanting it to be at least a 4.5. I get that. But I think Skattebo kind of fits that Puka Nacua narrative to where when you put the helmet and the pads and everything on Cam Skattebo, the speed is just a little bit different. The game process is a little bit different. I think Skattebo is going to be slept on a little bit. Could it be a bust pick? Absolutely, because we're here at the end of the first, and, a lot of these picks come and go. How many times can you look back in the first and the second round, you've made a selection, it's like, well, Roschon Johnson ain't working out too well.
Going back and looking at some of our draft boards from our main Dynasty League,
yeah,
it's like even in the first round where you're like, the hit rate should be like 75% in the first round,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's actually closer to like 50 to 60% most years.
It's pretty low, but I like Cam Skattebo. I think that he's gonna be a guy in the NFL that just works out, and you're gonna want to find a way to get him involved in an offense.
Okay, so you're going with Skattebo. We love that. We love saying Skattebo. I'm going to go ahead and just take the faller, apparently, in Luther Burden, and lock him in at the 112. So, again, I think he has, going back to the kind of Emeka Egbuka conversation where it's floor versus ceiling, I think the floor is significantly lower for a guy like Burden, but the ceiling outcome, I think, is higher. So, again, if we're looking at a 50 to 60% hit rate, I'm going to bank on things that can kind of turn the tide even slightly in my favor to end up on the right side of that coin flip. And for me, that starts with draft capital. So give me the guy who is, being very commonly mocked, like right there on like that borderline of the first round. He's 34th overall, like I said, most commonly projected to your Rams at 26.
Oh, wow.
So you can kind of see it's an interesting thing where this group of wide receivers especially has a wide variance in terms of how these guys are viewed, how they're mocked. I know Josh Norris from Underdog said, good luck ranking the wide receivers after Travis Hunter as your wide receiver 1. He's like, if you want to have this guy 3rd, if you want to have him 9th, I understand. So, yes, let's go with Luther Burden at 112. And before we move on, Bobo, let's do a little recap here. So starting at 101, Ashton Jeanty, Travis Hunter went at the 102, Tet McMillan 103, Omarion Hampton 104, Quinshon Judkins 105, TreVeyon Henderson 106, Abdul Carter 107, Tyler Warren 108, Emeka Egbuka 109, Matthew Golden 110, Cam Skattebo 111, and Luther Burden at the 112.
I love it.
I am proud to announce that FastDraft now has an all-defense game called D-Up. That's right, fans of IDP finally have a real money best ball game that they can play. No more manually setting up leagues every time you want to do a draft. No. Now you can play for 10 grand, 2,000 to first. Could draft up to 30 teams, all defense. And the best part, balanced scoring, tackles for loss, pass breakups. It all factors in. Just draft 6 defensive players, top 4 into your lineup every week. It's that easy. It's so easy that this isn't just for IDP people. If you love the NFL, then you'll love this game. And for the first time with FastDraft, you can sweat both sides of the ball on Sunday. So use your host's promo code to get a $25 deposit match, and you'll love this D-Up contest because it's about time we got one.
So let's kick it off. 201, Bobo. Let's keep this train rolling. What are you thinking? First pick of the second round.
Yeah, 201 is going to be fun. This is going to be a good time because Luther Burden is he's another little tier wide receiver to where after Burden, it kind of falls off a little bit. After Caleb Johnson, after Cam Skattebo, it falls off just a hair. But I'm going to reach a little bit here. It's time for a little reach. Let's go a little shout out to Kyborg for this one. Bhayshul Tuten at the 201.
Tuten, wow.
It's going to be high. I get that there's going to be a lot of hate for this, but Bhayshul Tuten's athletic profile, the RAS, is pretty special. I think Bhayshul Tuten is going to be a guy that works out in the NFL. He's almost 6 foot, 206, He has a 9.29 RAS there out of Virginia Tech. Tuten just a guy that when it comes to time of deciding your running backs, I go with athleticism a lot of times, and Bhayshul Tuten is at the top of that pyramid for me this year.
You are absolutely on your edgelord grind right now.
Bring it
Trying
on.
to get the Reddit streets set on fire, but I love it. Okay, so Bhayshul Tuten, surprise pick there at 201.
Yeah.
But again, I think we're getting close to that range. I don't think you're going to see Bhayshul Tuten at the 201 in most people's rookie mock drafts.
Unless I'm in there.
But at this point, yeah, kind of like the NFL draft as we get further into the first round and into the second and beyond. It's sort of eye of the beholder at that
Yeah, you got to
point.
have guys you like.
So I like that. I like that you have a take, Bobo.
Yeah,
I don't know that I'm there with you on,
okay.
even though we love the
Yeah, it's
Tuten
all right.
name. I feel like you're just going with some of the fun names to say.
That's it.
Skattebo.
I'm just going for the risky stuff tonight.
All risk.
Come at me.
Come at me.
Come at Josh.
Don't do that.
I'm not gonna read it.
202, I am going back to the tight end with Colston Loveland. I think that this is a guy who, as much as I like Tyler Warren because of the very high mock draft capital that we're seeing for Tyler Warren, consistently sort of like in that 10 to 15 range, listening to people talk about Colston Loveland, I'm like, why is he not the tight end one in this class? And so I like Colston Loveland here in the mock draft database. Let's see where he is going. 19th overall, most commonly projected to my Indianapolis Colts. And so, yeah, I think both of these guys potentially could be top 15 picks. And again, I would just rather take a crack at grabbing a potential top 3 or 4 dynasty tight end because those onesie positions, I don't want to have like the tight end 13 and the tight end 20 that I'm trying to figure out who to start each week. I'd rather just try to invest early and often to try to crack that position and figure it out. So let me go with Colston Loveland. He is, remember we said that Tyler Warren was already sitting as the tight end 4. Colston Loveland is sitting there as the tight end 7 right now. So I will go with the guy who the market already views as a top 10 dynasty tight end at the 202.
I like that. That's a great selection. It makes me kind of scratch my head a little bit and think, should we just kind of stick it tight end here at the beginning of the second? But I'm going to go with a wide receiver that I've liked ever since I turned his tape on. His name is Elic Ayomanor.
Ayomanor.
E-L-I-C. I see you, Elic.
Elic.
That's a tough one for me. Wide receiver out of Stanford, 9.69 RAS, a little bit over 6'1", 206. Ayomanor is a little bit of like a little discount Emeka, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a guy that isn't going to light the world on fire as far as speed. He's not going to be just a separation route running god, but I think he is much like Emeka in strong hands, going to be good in zone. He's just going to be a really good stalwart for potentially like a rookie quarterback. Just going to be somebody that has good hands, runs the right routes, isn't in the wrong place a lot of times. So Ayomanor, in the second round, I drafted Michael Pittman at the 207 in 2020. Ayomanor reminds me a lot of kind of the similar vibes and similar draft capital. You're not getting your Justin Jefferson in the first round. You're not getting your CeeDee Lamb. But Ayomanor is going to be a guy like Michael Pittman you're going to want on your dynasty team.
Yeah, let's see where he is going right now on the old mock draftable. He is 52 overall, so that puts him somewhere in that later half of the second round.
Yeah.
So I like that as far as draft capital goes. Right here, I'm kind of torn because I think we're in this kind of big fat bunch of offensive question marks as far as like Harold Fannin Jr., Jaylen Noel, Tre Harris, Dylan Sampson, Devin Neal, Ollie Gordon. There's a lot of guys kind of in that fat middle of second round that I think you're going to see commonly drafted here in rookie drafts. So I'll reach a little bit maybe by consensus. Let me go with Cam Ward, QB1. You were probably thinking I was going to go with Jihaad Campbell,
I
the
did.
LB1. I thought about it.
Okay.
But I kind of look at Cam Ward as like poor man's Jayden Daniels.
Okay.
You're going to have better draft capital for Cam Ward, most likely, than you even had for Jayden Daniels if Cam Ward does in fact go at the 101, which it sounds like is all but certain. Tennessee Titans, I don't love that situation, but we also didn't love the situation with Jayden Daniels, who now sits as, I think, the Dynasty QB1 for some folks out there.
Yeah.
So I think that it is a little bit of a bigger swing than maybe what some people were taking drafting Jayden Daniels last year, but 101 overall, this guy's going to be the starter for day one for the Tennessee Titans. And I think it's hard to find these quarterbacks that have sort of that like playmaking kind of upside that he does. And even though he's not a perfect prospect, I think it was reported earlier in the process that, oh yeah, he would have been the QB7 behind the 6 guys that went last year. And now digging more into it, I know guys like Derek Klassen from The Athletic are like, no, he'd be QB like 4. He's like, I would still have, Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jayden Daniels ahead, but I would have Cam Ward at QB4. So that's good enough for me here at 204.
I kind of am a closet Cam Ward fan. I think there's
Come out of the closet, Bob.
I think there's a world where Cam Ward actually works out. I don't know. I'm a fan. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, I think he's going to have all the opportunity in the world, and so that's what we like. If you're taking him here at 204, you're probably stashing him as like your QB2 with the hope that maybe he could ascend to be your QB1 for your fantasy team.
Probably the only quarterback drafted this year that's going to get much viable playing time.
Yeah, because Shedeur, depending on the landing spot, I mean, if he goes to the Giants, you've got Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston there, so he's probably QB3 if they keep those 2 guys ahead of him.
It's got to be prep for Shedeur.
Right. I think if it's the Raiders trading up, just all these teams that are kind of in the mix, even like a team like Pittsburgh, where we've seen him commonly mocked if he ends up falling a little bit.
Imagine being Shedeur, getting drafted by the Giants, and be like, do I really got to be mentored by Jameis and Russell Wilson?
The 2 biggest dorks.
How many years y'all going to be here?
Exactly.
Oh, my gosh.
So, yeah, that would be...
High-stepping through the plane.
That's where I think Shedeur wants to go. It sounds like is New York. Kind of reading the tea leaves.
Has neighbors talked about this? I'm sure he's a little chattery.
I'm sure they've told neighbors, please just don't talk about quarterback until after the draft's over, because we don't really want your unfiltered thoughts on Jameis.
Oh, wow.
But I thought about that with my Colts too, kind of reading the tea leaves. Speaking of, I initially thought the Colts wanted Anthony Richardson to win that competition. Like, I agreed with kind of the consensus take out there. More and more, especially seeing Shane Steichen at the owners' meeting say that they are going to split reps 50-50 during OTAs and during training camp and may the best man win. Yeah. I think the Colts want Daniel Jones to win this competition because I think they want an off-ramp from Anthony Richardson.
Wow.
And so, this is just getting real grim real fast because we're banking on Daniel Jones, who the Giants jettisoned to now have Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston and maybe Shedeur Sanders. And we're hoping that this guy, that the Giants, who are arguably in a worse quarterback spot now, didn't want on their team. We're hoping he can go the Sam Darnold route. So, I'm not super optimistic about the outlook for my Colts.
Yeah, I traded A-Rich after I got him from you because I think the same thing. I think there's fun plays, and the athleticism is crazy. Those rollout 70-yard bombs are pretty cool. But then when you can't hit a 7-yard out, it's like, we need you
hard
to do those a little bit more reliably.
So,
all right, so at the 205, I'm going to reach again. We're going to go with a guy from UCF.
Okay.
1,577 rushing yards last year, 22 touchdowns to go with 20 receptions, 267 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns, which to follow up the prior year at UCF, 1,400 yards, 16 touchdowns, 238 yards through the air. I'm going to go with my boy R.J. Harvey.
Okay.
I think that much like all these other running backs that I'm kind of reaching on, Cam Skattebo, Bhayshul Tuten, I just love the profile for R.J. Harvey. The analytics are really fun. Getting into the spreadsheets with Harvey is pretty fun. Harvey is just a guy like these other running backs that I just kind of fall for. Caleb Johnsons of the world are reliable and, they're not super fast, and, they're going to weave through a defense for 7 yards. But I want a running back that's just going to house it. He's going to be good out of the backfield catching the ball. So, yeah, is it a reach for Harvey? Maybe. But, man, I like him.
You like him? I like it. I like that you have takes, Bobo.
Yeah, I know you do.
And I'm going to take Jihaad Campbell here at the 206. I think this feels like the right range for Jihaad Campbell, especially with some of the buzz we're seeing for him in the first round. 17th player overall by the mock draft database, most commonly projected to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You think about him as the LB2 for a Todd Bowles defense, learning from Levante David and then taking the torch from Levante 2026, maybe 2027 as that team's LB1. I just love him to potentially ascend to like top 5 dynasty LB status as quickly as next year. So just like you said with Abdul Carter, give me that kind of guy at 107. I think Jihaad Campbell has the potential, if we did like a 2025 rookie redraft, say like spring of 2026, I think Jihaad Campbell has a chance to be one of these guys that sneaks into the first round in that kind of redraft exercise.
I agree with you, Josh.
So give me the LB1 here at 206. Where are you going at 207, Bobo?
Yeah, 207. I'm going to grab, since you've taken most of the tight ends here, I'm going to grab the last one in Harold Fannin Jr. A little lower RAS than I was hoping for, but at 6'3", 241 out of let's educate y'all. Bowling Green, University of Bowling Green is not Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Yeah, Bowling Green State is
Ohio.
actually in Bowling Green, Ohio.
Correct.
And we are Western Kentucky University here in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Thank you for that clarity, Josh.
You're welcome.
Harold Fannin, though, if you love athleticism, if you love the ability for some of these tight ends to do kind of wide receiver-y things.
Yeah, production-wise, this dude was elite last year.
Harold Fannin fits that bill probably more than Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland.
Yeah.
But much different players. Sometimes those Gesicki's of the world,
right?
Kyle Pitts don't really work out. But here at the 207, I feel like Harold Fannin has kind of fallen far enough.
Okay, well, let's talk about the 208. And I'm kind of torn right now because you've got a couple of guys in like Dylan Sampson, Devin Neal, but then you have a wide receiver. I just listened to the Underdog guys talk about this morning, Tre Harris. Give me your take on Tre Harris, Bobo, because this was a guy out of Ole Miss that they said is one of the hardest dudes to project in the 2025 wide receiver class. So where do you come down on this guy? Are you kind of in the middle? Are you lower, higher? What's your take on Harris?
I love Harris. I really, really do. I think if you remember, shout out Kyle Borg again, Tre Harris is a spreadsheet breaker. He puts a lot of metrics. You've got your X and Y axis, and you've got some good players out there, and then you've got your Ayomanors, and you've got your Tet McMillans that are in the good little scale, and then you've got Tre Harris. It's just this Pluto out in the middle of nowhere.
Not even a planet anymore.
So I think that Tre Harris, if he hadn't gotten hurt, if he had stayed healthy, even last year with 8 games, 60 receptions, over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, I feel like Tre Harris is one big giant outlier that we could look up last year and be like, we made a mistake. He probably belonged in that like Luther Burden, Matthew Golden type category. So here at the 208, Tre Harris is an absolute smash.
We're going
I feel
Tre
kind of
Harris.
stupid to have let Tre Harris go that far.
Hey, you had to get Rootin' Tootin' Bhayshul
I
Tuten.
had to for
and
the
your
brand.
boy, RJ Harvey. So where are you going 209, Bobo? We're kind of closing out here the second round. Take me through your thought process.
Yeah, so I'm kind of all over the place right now, to be honest with you, because you've now taken Tre Harris, who I kind of thought was the last big outlier at wide receiver.
Him earmarked as your next pick.
I've drafted all my running backs. Cam Ward is gone. Abdul Carter is gone. The elite linebacker 1, in my opinion, and Jihaad Campbell is gone also. Let's go Jaylen Noel.
Okay.
Very similar to a guy like Tre Harris. I feel like Jaylen Noel has kind of fallen far enough. At 5'10", 194, 9.72 RAS out of Iowa State. He's not necessarily the size profile that I like in my wide receivers. I like him to be a little bit taller, around that 205 range. But I do think a guy like Noel, if you've been on X, you've been on Twitter at all over the last couple of months, you've seen people gushing over Tre Harris and Jaylin Noel, honestly. So
yes.
Here at the end of the second, I do feel like it's a little too early to get into many more of the IDPs. I'm not getting into the Shedeur Sanders realm quite yet. I'm not really a huge Devin Neal, Ollie Gordon, Dylan Sampson fan. So I'm just going to take the last of the best wide receivers, in my opinion. There might be one or two more, but go ahead and give me Tre Harris here at the 209.
Okay, 210. Speaking of, let's go Dylan Sampson.
Okay.
We're in that kind of running back dart throw territory, but this is a helpful exercise for me. My main dynasty team needs running backs, and I do have a pick near the middle of the second round at 205. So I'm paying attention to these running backs, and seems to be a guy, Adam has him ranked as his RB7, 19th overall player, and by Keep Trade Cut, he is the 17th ranked rookie. So again, I'm just going to take dart throws from a class that we have heard, maybe not in top-end talent, but in depth, is a really solid running back class. So I'll take that kind of swing here at the 210. Bobo, where are you going? 211.
All right. 211. It's time to probably get a little bit more edgy. It's been a minute. Right?
You haven't been an edgelord recently enough.
Let's go DJ Giddens here, running back out of Kansas State. Let's look at the metrics here. Kansas State, sophomore year, 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, 29, 323 through the air and 3 touchdowns. And then last year, he had 205 attempts, 1,343 yards. That's 6.6 a clip, which is pretty good. 7 touchdowns, 21 receptions, 258, and 1 touchdown. So DJ Giddens, another guy that's just kind of a little guy that I like. I love this draft because I can throw me a bunch of running back darts. And are they all going to work out? No. But surely to God, between
one of them hits the dartboard.
Giddens,
that's all we're asking for.
Bhayshul Tuten, RJ Harvey.
Harvey.
We're going to talk about some more. I've got some Damien Martinez love.
Don't do it to me.
I've got some love for a lot of these running backs. But in the XFL primarily, this is probably where my brain is. I'm pretty null and void when it comes to the running back. So I'm going to throw as many darts as I can. But I really do like DJ Giddens higher than where his ADP is right now.
Okay. Well, let's round out the second round then with another running back dart throw and go with Devin Neal. He is the next guy up on the list for both Keep Trade Cut. He is the 18th ranked player. And then next up for Addy as well, his 20th ranked player. Out of Kansas, RES 8.6. That's good enough for me.
Yeah.
So let's go with Devin Neal here at the 212.
No, I like Devin Neal a lot. 3,000-yard seasons at Kansas. Had 16 touchdowns his junior year, 16 touchdowns again his senior year. Catches the ball a little bit out of the backfield, not a ton. But here at the end of the second, a guy like Devin Neal fits the bill.
All right, let's do a little recap here before we move on to round 3. Bhayshul Tuten, 201. Colston Loveland, 202. Elic Ayomanor, 203. Cam Ward, 204. DJ Harvey, 205. Jihaad Campbell, 206. Harold Fannin Jr., 207. Tre Harris, 208. Who's the other Harris at 209 here, Bobo?
Maybe I put him twice. I don't know. We'll have to go back and you'll find out when we find out.
I think I went with Tre Harris, and you went with the Iowa wide receiver Jayden Higgins.
There we go.
There at the 209, 210 Dylan Sampson, 211 DJ Giddens, 212
I don't think that's right.
Devin Neal. I thought you went with the Iowa guy because I thought, or the Iowa State guy, Jayden Higgins. Did you not?
No. I win. I don't know. Continue on. I'll find out.
We'll find out who's at the 209. It is a mystery, but you're actually up at the 301, Bobo.
Okay, 301. This is interesting because I feel like this is where we can finally start digging into what we know. Let's get into the IDP well a little bit. And I'm going to jump in here, and I'm going to go Nick Emmanuel.
Oh, my gosh.
The safety
You
one.
monster. Safety one.
Was he on your mind?
He was on my mind for the third round. I don't know when in the third round I was going to jump in, but this guy I feel like is...
We've drafted enough offense. We've thrown enough darts.
Yeah, enough darts. Let's show some love to the IDP side. He is the 23rd player in the mock draft database right now. Most commonly mock to the Minnesota Vikings at 24.
You drafted Jaylen Noel earlier. No, you drafted Tre Harris. Jaylen Noel was my 209.
There you go.
Sorry,
So
we
Noel.
figured it out.
So
302
Higgins is still on the board then?
Higgins is still on the board.
Let's go with Higgins then at
Okay.
302.
Okay.
This is Adams, wide receiver 11. A guy that the underdog dudes spoke kind of glowingly about. So that was on my radar. And as far as the mock draft database, they have him at 54 overall, peaked at 51. So somewhere in that second round, he should get some pretty nice draft capital. And as far as the keep trade cut side of things go, he is their 24th ranked player. So feel pretty good getting him here at 26 overall.
I like that.
So
All right, here in the middle of the third, I am going to I'm gonna jump back into the IDP well.
don't you do it.
Let's go, Mike Green.
Mike Green. Are you a Mike Green guy?
I am. I kind of like Mike Green.
Okay.
You know, how many sacks did he have last year for the what are they? The Marshall Thundering Herd.
Thundering Herd, yes.
What's their motto? Go green, big green.
Well, it's a green wave,
Okay,
which I
green
think
wave.
is kind of interesting, right?
Is Marshall Eastern Kentucky?
Wait, is Tulane, I think, maybe the green wave is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, you got that wrong.
Yeah, green wave of, Tulane, I'm pretty sure. Yes, Tulane is the green wave. They are the Thundering Herd. They're the Buffalo.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's over like Eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, Virginia.
What, Marshall?
Yeah.
Marshall, I'm pretty sure, is West Virginia.
Okay.
I will verify that, though, for
I feel
you.
like I've drove by there before, but yeah, I like Mike Green. I think that I think a guy like guy like Mike Green could work out in the NFL. I would love to know, like, Josh, what do you think of Mike Green, like, for a comp? Like, who do you think production wise, if things work out well for Mike Green, and I'm not going to say he's going to turn into like a Daniil Hunter, but who could be like a serviceable edge right now that Mike Green kind of fits the bill of, like.
Huntington, West Virginia for Marshall, by the way.
Hey, Huntington, West Virginia. Shout out Tudor's Biscuit World.
Shout out.
What about like?
I think he's going to be. What is his upside? I think his upside is something
Like a Montez Sweat?
Yeah, like a high-end edge 2.
Okay.
Right? And even though he is going to most likely get first-round draft capital, I don't necessarily see him as like a locked and loaded edge 1.
Yeah.
I don't really see that in like his range of outcomes. He is the 18th ranked player in the mock draft database, most commonly projected to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay.
So wouldn't hate that,
Nah, that'd be
especially with Sam Hubbard out the door. So if that ended up coming to pass, would not be upset about that. But yeah, Mike Green, he profiles in that rookie year as like you're probably not going to start a Mike Green at any week unless he does maybe get a ridiculously good snap share on an edge-needy team, and maybe you throw him in as like a streamer 1 week or 2 weeks in his rookie season. But, yeah, I see his kind of upside sort of like a Montez Sweat, sort of like that edge 2-3 borderline.
Okay.
So I think that's fine to be able to get a guy like that here in the third round. So you go with Mike Green at the 303. Right now I'm looking – this feels like the range where we're going to see an IDP run.
Yeah.
Right? Because some of these top guys – are starting to go, and so I'm looking.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you've taken Emmanwori off the board, so I'm looking Malaki Starks. He is the 21st ranked player in the mock draft database. I'm looking at a guy like Carson Schwesinger, who is the let's see where they have old Carson slotting in here. He is the 55th ranked player in the database, but a guy who I know some folks have kind of looked at possibly in the first round of the NFL draft, but that does not feel like it's the consensus across the kind of industry right now as far as mock drafts are concerned. Offensive guys, I think you see some talented guys left here. Like I know one of Addie's favorites, Jack Batch. Jack Beck is sitting here. His wide receiver 8, his 23rd ranked player out of TCU, 9.48 RAS. 6'1", 214. Let's go with Jack Betch.
Wow.
Jack Back.
You went all the way around.
I came all the way around.
Thought you were going IDP there for a minute,
I thought
Josh.
about it, but
Wow.
it's kind of like we're leaving some meat on the bone here with offense. So let's go ahead.
I definitely wasn't planning on drafting Betch. So thanks for doing that to me.
37th ranked player by keep trade cut.
Pretty cool.
So,
Pretty cool.
I like how you put bench. Because that is where Jack
Hey.
Beck is going to be probably
Shout out Apple.
for your roster.
Hey,
Shout out Apple for
changed it
the
on its own.
autocorrect
Didn't
there.
like that last name,
So
but
that was 304, 305, Babo.
305, Damien Martinez.
Okay.
Running back out of Miami, 5'11", 217, a little bit of a bigger boy. 2,000-yard seasons in his last two, Oregon State in 2023 and then Miami last year. He had 10 touchdowns, 9 touchdowns the year before. Also was really productive the first year at Oregon State. Doesn't catch the ball a ton out of the backfield, 17 for 204 last year, but didn't have any touchdowns his senior year. But Damien Martinez, a guy that I like, just like these RJ Harveys, and I can't even remember all the other ones that I've drafted. But
Bhayshul Tuten.
yeah, Damien Martinez.
Skattebo.
I like the way that he runs. I think he's a tough runner. So, yeah, here in the third round, grasping straws at running backs, you could do much worse.
All right. Babo, I'm looking here at Adam's rookie rankings, again, available for paid supporters, theidpshow.com. Click into the Dynasty Rankings page, and there will be a spreadsheet link there on that page. And Adam has tabs for IDP only rookies, 1 QB, and Superflex tight end premium rookie rankings. That's what I'm looking at here. Tell me what your thoughts are on the other Texas wide receiver, Isaiah Bond.
Yep.
Adams wide receiver 10, his 29th overall player, 5'10", 180 out of Texas. What's your thoughts on Bond?
I don't love him.
You don't love him? Why not?
I don't love him. I don't know. He's just the build of a wide receiver that I can't really get behind. Little on the
smaller.
smallish
Yeah.
side, 5'10", 180. I don't remember off the top of my head what he ran at the combine. I don't think it was anything like Xavier Worthy did last year. And again, maybe this is just that Texas narrative, much like his counterpart in
Matthew Golden.
there you go, that I just can't get behind. But I don't know. Bond is a guy that I'm probably not drafting.
Are you higher on Jalen Royals?
Oh,
Wide
for
receiver
sure.
9 out of Utah State. for
Absolutely.
Addy. Okay.
Absolutely. 9'2", RAS, 6
like
foot
that.
205. Royals got a nice little following behind him, and I think for good reason.
Okay, well, let's go with Jalen Royals at the, what are we at? 306. Okay, 306. Royals, you're up 307. We are cresting the hill in the third round.
We are almost there, Joshy. We're gonna land this plane. All right, let's go to another wide receiver that I really, really am falling for, and I could see myself maybe even talking into even higher. Let's go Kyle Williams, Adams wide receiver 12, a little over 6 foot. I don't think he's 299. I think Adams got a little typo in there.
Imagine if he
If he
was
did.
almost 300 pounds. Just a massive wide receiver.
Wide receiver out of Washington State, Kyle Williams, really good at separating, really good at getting off the defender in press coverage. And if you know me, you know wide receivers that I like. I'm a big route running guy. I'm a big separation guy. I'm really big on seeing if you can get off of that press coverage at the line of scrimmage. If so, let me see what you can do down the field, because in the NFL, that's the first thing that you got to do. So Kyle Williams, a guy that I really feel like is going to rise in this post-draft type of time frame that we're getting into. Kyle Williams, I love this dude.
Okay, so you are going Kyle Williams here at the 307, 308. I'm tempted to go to the linebacker with Schwesinger. Tempted to look at Malaki Starks, because I think Starks is going to ultimately get first-round draft capital to a good team.
I have drafted Jeremy Chin, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Derwin James right in this 307, 308 type category.
It's on the borderline for me.
Yeah.
And he's one of these guys where I think
Do it.
Malaki Starks could be pretty quickly a top 10 dynasty safety. Let's go Malaki Starks.
I love it, Josh.
Let's go Malaki Starks at 308. Adams, rookie safety 2 behind Ammon Worry. Like I said, he is a guy that feels like is going to go back part of the first round. That's where he is by the mock draft database right now. He is 21 overall. So I think he's going to go to one of these teams that was a playoff team last year and immediately plug in as a starter for a really high caliber defense.
Yep.
So I think he has that going for him. You know, whereas even though you do like that early draft capital, especially in the first round for prospects, because it's a big investment by that team, I also kind of like back end first round draft capital,
Yeah.
because they tend to land with better teams.
Yep.
So give me Malaki Starks there at 308.
I love that, Joshy. So 309 here, back half of the third. I'm going to go running back again. We're going Jarquez Hunter, running back out of Auburn, 5'10", 202. Last year at Auburn, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, 21 receptions, 155 yards, and 1 touchdown through the air. Doesn't do a ton of receiving, pretty much does a lot of his work on the ground. Jarquez Hunter, just another one of these running backs. It's just, I feel like a lot of these guys are going to replace a lot of older, aging running backs in the NFL because we're just getting to that narrative to where a lot of these guys have a lot of mileage on them. They've been around the league for quite a while, and some of these rookies that are coming in are going to be pretty decent. So I'm really actually pretty high on those last two guys that I drafted, Damien Martinez, and then obviously now Jarquez Hunter. So Hunter at the 309, Joshy, 310.
Let's go. This is where I'm debating the idea that we mentioned earlier of who has the best chance to still be relevant 4 to 5 years down the road for you. Because I think you're looking at sort of this chunk of wide receivers like Arian Smith, Xavier Restrepo, Savion Williams.
Did you see Restrepo's 40 at Miami?
What was it?
4.84.
Oh, boy. That is really, really slow. Was he the one that came out and said, I tweaked a hammy?
I didn't see that.
I thought that was
I'd hope
because
so.
everyone was like, why in God's name did this guy run? And he actually tweeted and said, I tweaked my hammy right before I ran, but everyone had showed up to watch me, so I still ran. It's like, where the hell is your agent saying, you tweaked your hammy? Don't run. Because that's all these guys are going to remember is this bad 40 time. So then I'm looking at someone like Carson Schwesinger, who is the LB2 in this class. He's the LB1 for Mike Wohlert. I think he is going to be early second round. I don't see him sneaking into the back part of the first round. And then Shedeur Sanders as well. Sanders is the 38th ranked player for Adam. Really interesting player comp I saw, Bobo, was Andy Dalton. If you got a career arc, remember early career, Andy Dalton
Pretty
with the
good.
Cincinnati Bengals. I just think Shedeur Sanders is going to be better than probably we are giving him credit for. So I'm really torn right now between Carson Schwesinger probably is a better chance to be relevant for fantasy football right away. Shedeur Sanders, I think, has probably a longer shelf life. So I'm going to go with Carson Schwesinger. Give me the guy who is going to probably have a chance at cracking lineups maybe later in 2025, but I like him a lot, especially as a 2026 play. So at the 310, give me Carson Schwesinger.
That's not who I had typed out for you, Josh. I'm pretty pissed off about that selection.
Who did you have for me?
I had already typed out Shedeur for you, but that's okay. Schwesinger does look pretty cool, especially if he goes to a good team. I could see him really rise.
6'2", 242. I think that
fits the bill.
I think this dude is going to be one of those. Again, I'm looking at in the third round who could be potentially like an early to mid second round pick in like a rookie redraft scenario next spring.
I'm gonna get a little edgy again.
Don't do it to me.
I'm doing it.
Okay.
311, Jaxson Dart.
Jaxson Dart. I kind of wondered where he was going to slot in. Listening to Robert Mays break down the QB class with Dane Brugler and Derek Klassen on the Athletic Football Show, I think it was Derek that actually said if he was sitting there at the back of the first round in the NFL draft, he would take, as a second round, like late first, early second, he would rather take like a Tyler Shuck over a Shedeur Sanders, which I thought was pretty spicy. They weren't as high on Jaxson Dart. I think the NFL at large is higher on Jaxson Dart. He's sort of in that Bo Nix sort of archetype. But so tell me why you want to take the Dart throw here at 311.
I think that Dart is just kind of one of these guys that in the NFL now, it's not going to be like an Anthony Richardson. I'm not saying Anthony Richardson is not going to work out, but Anthony Richardson really needed to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he was going to sit a year or two behind Russell Wilson. Anthony Richardson was not ready to be thrown to the Wolves, especially at his age. I mean, what is A-Rich, like 21?
I think he's 22.
Okay. I think Jaxson Dart is going to be in a great situation to go sit behind a Matthew Stafford, go sit behind an aging Aaron Rodgers, I don't know that he's going to sit for like multiple years, but I think he's going to go somewhere where he's not going to be asked to play week 1, and he's going to be able to sit and learn. I like the metrics. I like what I saw on tape for Dart. I think he has the athletic ability and everything. I do not like Shedeur Sanders. There is nothing in my body in any of these rounds that tells me draft Shedeur because he's falling. I'm pretty much out on him. But I'm kind of talking myself into Jaxson Dart being the only other quarterback in this draft behind Cam Ward that I'm interested in.
So at the 312, let's go with Shedeur Sanders.
Oh my gosh.
Just because I think that one of these teams is going to talk themselves into, like, if you gave me the option to bet on Shedeur Sanders going inside, like, let's say the top 6, because the Raiders are sitting there at 6, or falling past, like, pick, let's say 15, falling into the back half of the first round, I think it's more likely he goes inside that top 6 because quarterback premium. I mean, you just end up paying a premium for these guys, even if it's a 25% chance that they're a long-term starter in the NFL. If you're a quarterback-needy team, you have to take this kind of swing. So I think it's funny. On the mock draft database, Shedeur Sanders is 4th overall behind Travis Hunter. His peak is 1, which I think is hilarious because there's no way Sanders is going over Ward. But there is no projected team that's a consensus. And that kind of tells you how the mock drafting community feels about Shedeur Sanders, where it's like, we don't know where this guy is going to go. His range of outcomes is all over the place, but him sitting there at 4 tells me that more people than not feel like he's probably going top 6. And so here at the 312, I'll take a chance that maybe I can have a QB 2 for my roster as opposed to like a wide receiver 8.
I like that. Yeah, because we're really deep in the running back and the wide receiver well at this point.
And the edge rushers, it's not a class that I'm super excited about. I think this is going to be a class where you see the edge rushers go like late 3rd into the 4th and 5th rounds.
So just what I was going to talk about, you get on to Adam's Dynasty ranks. He also has the IDP only rookie ranks in here. We drafted Travis Hunter. We drafted Abdul Carter. We drafted Jihaad Campbell. Carson Schwesinger went. I took Nick Amanawari. You took Malaki Starks.
And Mike Green.
Yes.
So what do we got, 7?
We drafted 7.
7 of the
Adam's
first
top 10.
Yes, of the first 36 picks in this mock draft were IDP.
You didn't take any Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, Demetrius Knight, James Pierce Jr., Mason Graham, Jay Higgins.
The defensive
Xavier
tackles,
Watts,
I think, are guys that you're going to see going in the 5th round or undrafted.
Jade Barron. I do like Xavier Watts. If you've got a running back or a wide receiver dart that you want to throw, you really better have a 2nd or a 3rd because that's where they're going to go. Now, if you do have an IDP that you really want to get behind, if Xavier Watts is your guy, if you really believe that James Pierce Jr. is going to work out in the NFL, 4th and 5th are what you want to, and not a lot because this is not a year where you want to throw a lot of IDP darts. And really, you probably don't want to throw too many offensive darts because a lot of these running backs aren't going to work out.
The 4th and 5th in this kind of rookie draft class is going to feel kind of yucky.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to be saying, why the hell did I hold on to these 4th and 5th? Yeah. I am planning, this is a little bit of a kind of a hat tip for any of my XFFL league mates, that I am going to be looking to trade these 4th and 5th round picks for like, who is, can I go get Levante David? Can I go get Bobby Wagner? Can I go get an older linebacker for that 5th round pick?
In draft,
right. Somebody's like, oh, I wish I had a pick. Well, you've got Levante David, so give me David for this 4th, and you can come in here and get your guy.
What if you don't want to do it in draft this year? What if the draft is so gross you want to have done that ahead of time?
Could be. I think there is something psychologically, though, where folks just want to get in on the action because folks will always have that little darling sleeper that they love that they want to jump in the 4th round and take.
But if you're going to do that, you might want to start to get the wheels turning a round before.
You need to also identify trade targets ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because once the draft happens, if you have a live rookie draft like we do, that clock is going to move way too fast for you to go try to identify, okay, who doesn't have a lot of picks, who has the linebacker that I like, map that out ahead of time, and then when you're on the clock there at 4:06 or whatever, and then you can start to look at, okay, who do I want to try to flip this pick for?
But see, I think you want to start around the 306 because while people are still on the draft board and people are thinking about it, you know, you might want to hit them up with, hey, if you've got a guy, you know, this is a trade that I'm going to float you now. But so then that way when their guys picked at 403, you're not on the hook having to make that selection at 406.
Right.
Go ahead and get the ball rolling a little bit ahead of time is my only opinion there.
Okay. So there you go, folks. 3-round updated rookie mock draft, 1 QB, PPR, big 3 scoring, true position. Who was your favorite pick? Who was the biggest reach? Which of Bobby's picks was it? Hopefully Reddit doesn't get a hold of this episode.
Bring
but Bobo,
it.
I like that you have opinions that are different from the crowd. Let us know. Who do you think is going to be your most rostered rookie across offense, IDP? Who are those late-round sleepers that you love? Drop it in the comments.
What's your one thing? What's your big takeaway from this draft? Do you have anything?
And it's a takeaway that you're going to have in every rookie mock draft, but there are some definite cliffs.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here at 105 in our main draft. You've got 2 top 4 picks. I think we may be having a discussion after this because I don't know that I want to be sitting at 105 because there's a big ass cliff right there from 104 to 105, and then similar to later in the first round, I think you feel that cliff once again. I think there's 2 cliffs within the first round.
Now I will say patience is key because the NFL draft is going to happen, and all of a sudden when the Kansas City Chiefs draft a running back, it's like, hold up.
Is this guy the new 102?
Exactly. It's a la CEH, you know, somebody that really wasn't on our radar and then got taken 102 in the XFL. Things like that happen every single year.
I am glad we draft after the NFL draft because,
Absolutely.
if you're one of those sickos out there that does it beforehand, hat tip because you have more of a risk appetite than I do. So thank you all for tuning into this episode. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@theIDP show. We're cranking over there. This week, the IDP show, this episode. Next week, IDP drafts, the IDP after show. We're in the midst of our kind of rookie positional preview series right now. We've got some great episodes coming out on YouTube over there. And then the IDPshow.com, you have an updated rookie mock draft coming later this week. So double dip on the rookie mock content. Go over there, check it out, and then subscribe. We've got a lot of good stuff rolling out on the IDPshow.com.
Shout out to my boy, old Jakey, was in Bowling Green last week. I got to see him for a second.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Sounded
Miss
like
you,
a good
Jakey.
time.
Come back.
If you want to come down and visit Bowling Green, Kentucky for vacation, we'll hook you up with a fun itinerary.
Maybe.
So, but thank you all again for checking it out, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. And until next time we see y'all, take care, and we'll see you soon.
It's the IDP show.